I want to give all praise and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, ha, rakat, kwadash, double honors unto our apostle elders which rule great millstone while, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abab abab. All right, so we're living in the time of prophecy being fulfilled. This is 2 Esdras 15 verse 10. Behold, my people, which are the Israelites, is led as a flock to the slaughter, which the so-called white race, Esau, Edom, the red devil that rules the world in wickedness, has an alliance with these other nations against the Israelites, and they intend to try to slaughter us, to try to stop the prophecies. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. America is spiritual Egypt. Look at the back of the dollar and the symbols that they have at their monuments. Even your president is inaugurated. It says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So this is showing you it's not ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, you could still go visit the pyramids for a vacation. This is talking about Babylon the Great, which is spiritual Egypt, America, and it's going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. It's going to be turned into a lake of fire. It's going to lose World War III at the return of Yahawashi. Now I wanted to get the plagues that are going to come upon here. All right, Wisdom of Solomon 17. For these are the plagues that he put on ancient Egypt, but as it said in that verse, he's going to put the plagues that he put on ancient Egypt here in Babylon, in spiritual Egypt, America. All right, which it even has more plagues because it's going to eat the nuclear missiles at the return of Yahawashi. All right, but now this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 17. Verse 1, it says, for great are thy judgments and cannot be expressed. Therefore, unnurtured souls have erred. Which that's what these heathen are unnurtured souls. It says, for when, because the Lord says that they are nothing. Okay, he don't care about these fucking heathen. But he uses the heathen against us as a weapon because of our sin. All right. So now that we're repenting, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi is showing us mercy. Yahawah is the Father, bahasham in the name, Yahawashi is the Son. And we know this by the Holy Spirit. It says in verse 2, for when unrighteous men thought to oppress the holy nation, which the Hamites were doing back then in Egypt, and this is what the Edomites and the other nations are doing today in 2025, the year that we pray for judgment and salvation of the elect of Israel. And it says, they being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness, and fettered with bonds, with the bonds of a long night, lay there exiled from the eternal providence. So they don't have a prayer in heaven or on earth when these plagues really start to come upon them. All right, these heathen, it's going to be known to them, all right, that they have no God, they have no power, they have no Savior. All right, it says in verse 3, for while they supposed to lie hid in their secret sins, they were scattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, which the Lord took their mind from them, being horribly astonished and troubled with strange apparitions, which this is literally happening in Babylon right now. There's strange apparitions being caught on camera, all right, and people are being horribly astonished, all right, to the point of death. All right, there's signs in the heavens and in the earth. All right, and it's only going to intensify. This time that we're living in is going to be worse than any other time. All right, because the Lord is he's going to show his power. In Romans 9, it tells you that. The Lord wants to show his power. So he raised up Esau, just like he raised up Pharaoh, so that he could destroy him and his name be glorified. All right. It says in verse 4, for neither might the corner that held them, which they were hugging the corner of the wall, because it was so dark they couldn't see, and then their mind, it was failing them. Their mind was failing them, and they were seeing visions, all right? Horrible visions. It says, for neither might the corner that held them keep them from fear, but noises as of waters falling down sounded about them, and sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances, which, the Lord was tormenting them. He tormented them for touching and oppressing the holy nation. All right, and that's what he's going to do to the Edomites and these other nations. And he already has. They're having nightmares. That's why they're running in bunkers. That's why they're writing executive orders speaking as a dragon. All right, because they're already being tormented at the words of the prophets, and then they're having horrible visions, and these plagues are only going to intensify. It says, no power of the fire might give them light, neither could the bright flames of the stars endure to lighten the horrible night, which the Lord's just going to put a cold darkness even upon this place, America, which the lights are going to go out, and these people are going to be terrified. All right, terrified. And then the Lord's going to allow horrible things to happen. All right, and you're going to see horrible apparitions. If they seen them back then, you're going to see them in this life. All right, the Israelites that were obedient to Yahawah, and now we're obedient to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. All right, we're going to be preserved from these plagues. All right, but the 2/3 reprobates, which reject salvation, they're going to be caught up in these plagues. All right, just like the heathen. It says in verse 6, only there appeared unto them a fire kindled of itself, very dreadful, which it was a chariot. For being much terrified, they thought the things which they saw to be worse than the sight that they saw not. Which, if they saw the Lord, it would have destroyed them. All right, they would have just combusted in flames. That's what's going to happen when he returns. Read 2 Esdras 13. Everything under him burned. All right. It says, as for the illusions of art magic, which that's what Babylon's doing, America, it's operating in the witchcraft of Egypt and Babylon and these other nations, all right, which this is why you have the pyramid of Egypt on the back of your dollar. It says they were put down, and their vaunting in wisdom was reproved with disgrace. All these plagues showed that their gods were nothing, right? Because the Egyptians, they had a god for the water, a god for the sun, a god for the wind, right? They worshipped all these different gods, and all these plagues showed that they had no power. These gods weren't real, but the God of Israel was the power that controls these elements, all right? So that's what's going to happen now. Because Esau, the so-called white man, got a God complex, and he wants to set himself up as a God on earth and make everybody take an implantable microchip, the mark of the beast, to be part of this beast system. All right. So the Father, Yahawah, is going to send Yahawashi back, and he's going to meet Esau as a God, and he's going to destroy Esau's kingdom and put Esau in slavery after he destroys his military. It says in verse 8, for they that promised to drive away terrors and troubles from a sick soul were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to laugh at these heathen as they're plagued. All right? And I know I've been laughing seeing these heathen get fucked up, right? All these different plagues come upon them. And then to hear them crying about they can't find a job. The food stamps, right? They cut SNAP. And who did it affect? The heathen. It affected the heathen more than it affected Jake. All right. But these 2/3, which reject salvation, they're going to be caught up in these plagues. All right. And we're going to laugh at them too. It says, what is it? Let me grab that. That's the Lord laughing at you. All right. That's Proverbs 1 and 20. It says in verse 20, wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets, she crieth in the chief place of concourse. We do these videos, we do the camps, right? But you ignore it. In the openings of the gates in the city, she uttereth her words, saying, how long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning? And fools hate knowledge, which they reject the truth. Turn you at my reproof, which he set up prophets to teach you the truth. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you, which he only shows Israel, Jacob. Because I have called and ye refused, which he calls to the prophets by prophecy, and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded, talking about these 2/3 reprobates, but ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. Right? So you got Jake that see these videos and hear these videos, and they're scoffing in their heart, or in their mind, and they're speaking against us. They're cursing us. So they're cursing themselves, and they're going to realize it when they're in the lake of fire and the thought comes to them, why didn't I, listen to my teachers? It says, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. They shall call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me, because there's going to be a famine of the word. Right now, I just saw them passing laws to want to arrest posts, people that put up posts on the social medias that go against the wicked, all right, which it's prophesied that we would be persecuted for righteousness, and that there would be a famine of the word, which we're coming to that time, because Esau, he's panicking, all right, and he's coming down with great wrath, knowing that he had but a short time, and he knows, the elite know, that the only thing they could do is try to murder all the Israelites, and that's what their intentions are. All right, but the elect are going to be preserved, for his word endureth forever. It says in Proverbs 1 verse 29, for that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahawah. They would none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Like these women, right? The Israelite women, when they find out that their lot is to be a servant to her husband, she could only have one husband, and her husband in the great laws that Yahawah gave us as a nation, which Yahawashi is reconfirming with the elect of Israel. All right, the men could have many wives, so that we could produce many Israelites. But you got Israelite women that are against that. That's why they got to be destroyed. Because what good are they to the kingdom of heaven? All right? It's a man's world. And you better get in order. All right? The women, you have to get in order. And you belong behind a man, under a man. That's the way the Almighty created it. And it's really pride to think that you could even complain or think ill of it. And that's why those women that do, they're going to be in that lake of fire, that nuclear destruction. And then you're going to think in your head, why didn't I listen? You know, because you're hard head, stiff neck, just like all Israel is. The only difference is the elect. We stand stiffly for the Lord, meaning we don't budge for all these false doctrines. We're not even going to budge when our life is on the line and they threaten us with death because we don't take the implantable microchip. The Lord has made our head harder than an adamant stone, than flint. And we won't be converted to this way of the world. We won't accept that implantable microchip. We'd rather die. All right? So the Lord, though, for those reprobates of Israel, all right, that are going to go down to Egypt for help, you're going to be destroyed, and the Lord's going to laugh at your destruction because you scoffed at his truth, at the truth of his son and what his son done for us, which he was sacrificed, resurrected 3 days later by the power of Yahawah, where this is where he sits at the right hand now. All right? So once again, I'm going to go back to the plagues. It says in verse 9 of Wisdom of Solomon 17, for though no terrible thing did fear them, yet being scared with beasts that passed by and hissing of serpents, they died for fear. So these Hamites were dying just from the fear. All right. And a lot of it was just a sound that they heard. They didn't even see the things. It was just that scary to them of being in that darkness, that cold ass darkness, and their brain is just failing them. Their mind, their spirit left them, and they died. It says, denying that they saw the air, which could of no side be avoided. I mean, it was all around them. All right, it was all around. That's how it's going to be. It says you're going to run from a bear, turn the corner, and there's going to be a lion. You run into a house to get away from the lion, you put your hand on the wall, and a scorpion is going to get you. All right, it's going to be filled with great tribulation for the lack of bread. All right, it says, verse 11, for wickedness condemned by her own witness is very timorous, and being pressed with conscience always forecasteth grievous things. Let me look up that word. Timorous. It says showing or suffering from nervousness, fear, or a lack of confidence. So they were sick. All right, they were sick. They were shitting on themselves, crying, boogers falling, right? And they were just getting fucked up. It's very timorous, and being pressed with conscience always forecasteth grievous things. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offereth, which all their idols, they had these idols, these false gods, and they were afraid because their false gods didn't save them. And the expectation from within being less counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment. But they sleeping the same sleep that night, which was indeed intolerable, and which came upon them out of the bottoms of inevitable hell. So they were tormented in their mind. All right. Their bodies were failing them, and they were being tormented in darkness. It was dreadful. All right. This is why the heathen called the Father, our power, Yahawah, they called him Allah Shadya, which means a demon-like terrible power. That's why when they went into Jericho, Rahab, she said, they heard of what your God did for you in Egypt. Remember, The next night, the Lord crushed Pharaoh and the army of Egypt in the Red Sea as they pursued the Israelites. All right. So this is what's going to happen to our enemy in these last days. And we're going to sing the song of Moses. All right. I'm going to grab that and then I'll wrap it up. Because when we get the victory, we're going to sing the song of Moses. It says in Exodus 15, verse 1, it says, Then sang Moses and the sons of Israel this song unto Yahawah, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahawah, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. Yahawah is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation, which he gave us Yahawashi. He is my power, and I will prepare him an habitation, and my father's power, and I will exalt him. Yahawah is a man of war, Yahawah is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his hosts had he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Yahawah, which is Yahawashi, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Yahawah, had dashed in pieces the enemy. See, so Yahawashi is going to do the same thing when he comes back. And in greatness of thine excellency, thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble. Which this is what's going to happen to Esau. Here's Esau's, the prophecy of Esau's judgment and these other nations. Obadiah, verse 15. It's only one chapter. I'll start at 15. It says, For the day of Yahawah, when he sends his son Yahawashi back in his glory, is near upon all the heathen. This is why they're going into the bunkers. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee, which you're going to go into slavery under us. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, which are the Israelites, you caused us to sin. This is why you're known as the man of sin, and also the son of perdition. You're going to be destroyed. So shall all the heathen drink continually, and the heathen are confederate with Edom. Look at the UN. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. There's going to be a great judgment that shakes the earth. But upon Mount Zion, the Israelites, shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahawah has spoken of it. Yahawah has spoken it. Let me make sure I said that correctly. For Yahawah has spoken it. Now let's go to Ezekiel 35. It says, Moreover, the word of Yahawah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the supreme power Yahawah bahasham Yahawashi, Behold, O Mount Seir, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate, which their kingdom is America, Babylon the Great, who are to be destroyed by fire. I will lay thy cities waste by nuclear missile, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahawah. because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the sons of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery, by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, which it tells you in Obadiah, you should never have touched our substance, in the time of their iniquity had an end, in that their iniquity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, which we're repenting. But instead of putting us back in our land, you got counterfeits over there, and you're trying to murder us. Therefore, as I live, saith the supreme power Yahawah, which he's going to send Yahawashi, I will prepare thee unto blood, which we prepare you by putting salt out there, right? Teaching the truth, and it tells you what's going to happen to the Edomite, the red devil. And blood shall pursue thee, which you're going to be made extinct. Said, thou hast not hated blood, you loved it, drink blood, you eat blood, right? And you murder the Israelites, you don't care about the blood. Even blood shall pursue thee, which your blood is going to be spilt. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, which America, Babylon the Great, the kingdom of the Edomite, is going to be made a desert by nuclear destruction, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth, which the Lord is going to extinct Esau. First, his kingdom is going to be wiped off the face of the earth by nuclear missiles, and then slavery for 1,000 years, and then extinction after the 1,000 years. This is the prophecy of the heathen, the Edomite, the so-called white race, the red devil the Bible speaks of, the wicked that rule the world. All right, and the other nations, they're going to go into slavery for 1,000 years, but after they're re-educated by an iron fist, they're going to be allowed to be free, but be tributaries to the Israelites forever, and they'll follow and worship the laws of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, wa abababal.